Lads, let's get into it. I am Mal Foster and you, yeah, I know what you've been doing this week. Oh, I know. But don't worry, I'm not going to tell anyone. You know why? Because of that pinky swear we made. What? You mean you don't? Yeah, you do remember down at Old Man Johnson's farm. Yeah, you were wearing that raspberry... Well, come on. You must remember, it was when I was working at the Five and Dime. Yeah, Mr. McGee. Yeah, that idiot. Used to call me leisurely or something. To which I would say, oh, look, McGee, I'm the only one doing any graft around here. You're barely in the shop at all, as it is. And, by the way, while we're talking about this, that delivery you said yesterday was going to be here by 2:30 didn't turn up until 4 o'clock. So, guess who had to stay late, putting it away? Yeah, now who's leisurely? Or leisurely. Actually, come to think of it, leisurely doesn't sound any better. Both words are really weird sounding. Leisurely? Leisurely. Leisurely. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is I said, oi, look, Ian McGee, I am sick of this. I do all the graft and you give me all the grief. No one ever makes me a cup of tea and you all expect me to do everything. Well, I'm done. I'm sick of it. Frankly, I have been sick of it for a while and this is the breaking point. You know, so, McGee, you can take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. And then we ran out because he is a bit scary. Yeah, I mean... You know, there is that rumour that he pushed his own sister out of a window. So, yeah, I'm not hanging around for that. Anyway, we got in your car and we drove really fast all the way down to Johnson's farm, bypassed the field full of cattle mutilation, didn't even bat an eyelid, and we went into the barn and we made that pinky swear. Yeah, you remember? The one where you said you would never tell my secrets, and I would never tell your secrets. And I don't know about you, but I take pinky swears deadly serious. And if you know what's good for you, you better take them serious as well. Speaking of things that are good for you, you better stop doom scrolling right now. I mean it. Put that phone down. Get yourself out of that endless loop. Stop checking your timeline. Stop checking your feed. Stop rotating. Stop repeating. Stop rinsing. Stop repeating. Stop rinsing. Stop repeating. Stop it. It's one thing to be informed. It's another thing to constantly be falling down rabbit holes of horrible. Let's face it, guys, the end times are coming, the apocalypse is edging ever closer, and we cannot stop it. All we can do is just have a good time and make ourselves as comfortable as possible before the earth is completely scorched into dust. So, here's what I suggest. If you do not have a padded panic room or your own bunker in the backyard, then don't worry, because you can make a sort of substitute version doing this, exactly as I say. Grab yourself a duvet, preferably one that's been recently washed and smells quite nice and fragrant. You know, that always helps. So grab a duvet, grab some comfy pillows, grab a pet, if you've got a pet, preferably one that is very snuggable, because believe me, look, it's gonna get bleak. It's gonna get really bleak and you're gonna need some snuggles. So grab your snuggly pet. Also grab some pet food, because they're gonna get hungry, and when they do, they're just gonna bitch at you, and let's be honest, they're just gonna ruin the whole thing. So make sure you get the pet food, get some snacks, some supplies, bring in plenty of empty plastic bottles so you can pee in them. That way you never have to leave the bathtub. But most importantly, the thing that you need more than any of those things on the list is an electronic device in which you can listen to and subscribe to this show, Dimed Out, because that's gonna help you in some way, I guess. Yeah, sure, why not? It's definitely going to help you. Yeah, so while snuggling your pet and peeing in the bottle, you can subscribe to all the episodes we've had so far. And if you've already listened to them, then I guess you can just listen to them again and shut up. If you haven't, then you're in for a treat. You are in for a treat. You've got 10 great episodes. The last one is especially great because I did it with my mum and I'm totally biased. And if you haven't listened to it, you should definitely check it out. But yeah, 10 episodes, 11 including this one. So yeah, do that. And now we'll see you through the end times. Well, actually, it won't, but it will keep you preoccupied until the Earth is just destroyed. So, every cloud and that. In all seriousness, if you have subscribed to the show so far, if you've given us a rating and a review, which definitely does help us, that absolutely does help us, and if you've been telling your friends, which you totally should be doing, then thank you so much. If this is your first time listening to the show, and you've made it this far, then don't worry, it does get better. And I'm about to prove that in just a few moments. We are about to jump into the first of a 2-part episode, and the reason it's 2 parts is because we're trying something different here. I got a little bit of feedback quite recently saying that for the longer conversations, you may want to try and split it in 2 and not have just one big massive episode, but 2 shorter ones. So that's what we're trying here. Yeah, we're going to give it a go. We're going to see how it works. And my guinea pig, aka my guest for this week and for next week, is Shaune. He is one of my best friends, someone I've known for a very long time, someone I love very dearly, and somebody who I'm just so pleased he agreed to be on the show because it was an absolute blast having him on, and I think you're going to really dig both of these episodes. This one in particular is a real mixed bag of stuff. It's just full of just random side tangents and topics. We're talking about working from home, what that's been like for Shaune, what life during the whole pandemic and lockdown era of 2020 has been like for Shaune. We talk about structure and scheduling, forming new habits. We get into a weird topic about old-timey medical techniques, including trepanning, or as I call it in this episode, Triffany. That's the old, drill to the head kind of thing. We talk about iron lungs, just a whole weird subsection of old-timey, obscure medical stuff in there. If that's your kind of thing, you can look forward to that. If it's not, we talk about something that is just mind-blowing, that absolutely shatters an illusion I've held since I was a teenager. An absolute mind-blowing revelation occurs. How about that for a tease? And if that's not enough, we also talk about the only person I've ever met who suffered from narcolepsy. Anyway, this is it. This is me talking with Shaune. Hope you enjoy it. How are you finding working from home? We've talked about this a little bit.
I am absolutely 10 out of 10 for it. I cannot stress enough how much I'm enjoying being at home and being at work. Honestly, it's crazy because of this, the type of job I do. If I'm in the office, I'll tend to get, I don't want to say bothered because that gives the wrong impression, but I get a lot of people coming up with kind of walk-up inquiries to my desk, and
sure,
a lot of the time it'll be the same thing, sometimes within the same day, but generally day after day within the same week.
Mm-hmm. What
I found out after being at home is that because people either struggle to get hold of me because I'm in meetings on Teams, so they can't just kind of walk up to me, as if I was just sat on the phone in the office, people would still just walk up and start talking at me.
Yeah, or hand you something.
Yeah, or send me an email, and because it's kind of, I have to explain how, they need to do something rather than me just doing it for them because it's quicker so I can get back to whatever I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more people they're either asking me once and then learning because they're having to do it themselves, or more often than not, they're just figuring it out themselves, which makes my life a hell of a lot easier because it just means that there's less questions that I'm having to kind of answer that I don't really need to answer because I know these people know these things.
Right.
It's just I suppose a habit of having like a fallback of, well, I'll just ask you because you're here.
Yeah, it gets people out the convenience of getting an answer from you instead of spending the time to just sit down and think about, okay, how would I do this?
Yeah.
Or as you say, listening once you've told them and then kind of knowing that I can't keep coming back.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a long distance in at the deep end version of learn by doing, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess that is pretty much what it is.
They haven't got a choice. So no, I've enjoyed it. At first I did think, and when I spoke to a few people in the first kind of couple of weeks from the office,
mm-hmm.
asking them how they were getting on, everyone was kind of saying, I just really missed the interaction and the people, and I was kind of going, yeah, I missed that too. I mean, it turns out I don't actually. And not in a negative way, but just more in terms of the I still speak to people when I need to speak to them, and if I want to have a chat with someone about something, you know, I can ring someone or message them on Teams or on Zoom or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't miss I suppose, like the distraction of everyone being there, because I don't know what, you know, you're like in an office environment, and I would never consider myself generally a nosy person.
Right.
But if there's some drama or someone's got some business and I'm in an office, I want in it. I need to know what, who, when. I don't know why, because I really, outside of that environment, I couldn't care less. But you put me in this office situation, I instantly start, you know, I'm just breaking out the popcorn.
What did he say?
Yeah. So what do you think about that? Don't worry, I won't tell them. Ignore the pen and paper, that's just something else.
I'm not making notes, I promise.
Yeah. I feel like the Rita Skeeter of the office world.
There's something to that, though, because it's funny, because I'm not that interested in people's day-to-day business. That makes me sound like such an asshole. It really does. But I'm not. That's the truth of it. I can be generally quite misanthropic, where I'm just like, I honestly don't care. But because where I used to work, our office overlooked the shop floor. The shop floor was underneath. I used to work at an AV retailers, for those who don't know. And the shop floor obviously was the ground floor, and all the offices were up above in like a little sort of apex area. And there was like glass where you all around, so you could see all across the entire shop. And as I say, I normally don't give a shit. If someone's telling me about someone's boyfriend, I'm just like, well, all right, whatever. But the minute someone says, "Oh, Timmy's brought in his new girlfriend, they're on the shop floor," it's like, oh God, let's have a look.
If I worked in that fish tank kind of environment, I would get nothing done.
Oh yeah, no one ever does. If the managers were in, then yeah. But as soon as like any sort of managerial presence was out, everyone was just like, it was a bit more relaxed, and people were just looking out, and you would look at people just sat behind the desk, obviously playing like Candy Crush and stuff, and you're like, God, he hasn't done jack shit today, has he? And you just stood there doing nothing yourself.
I remember one of my first jobs was after college was in retail, and the two things I remember fondly about that job were, number one, lying to get it. In that, after I finished college, I knew damn well I was going to uni, but when I went for my interview at this place, because it was supposed to just be for a summer job, said, "So you're going to go to university now you finish college?" And I just said, "No, I've not really thought about that. It's not for me. I don't think I'm going to get in anyway." I knew I'd already got in at that point, so winner chicken dinner. And then I remember whilst working there, because the shop itself, the front was on I don't know. It's like an outdoor shopping mall sort of thing. It's not a high street, but it was kind of a high street, all pedestrianised area.
Okay.
And I remember an old woman walked past the front of the shop once, and a dog just took this massive shit, just right outside the door of the shop. And the manager at the time for the store picked up the desk phone, and our desk phones in the store, I've never seen any of the phones like this, had this function where you could dial a number, and then it turned every other phone in the store onto speaker and projected what you were saying. So it was like a weird telephony PA system. It was bizarre.
That is weird.
So we dialed this number, and this, you know, all you heard was, "Pick up your dog shit," and then just put the phone down.
So he basically used the internal telephone system as an outside tannoy to the woman who just let her dog call one out.
Yeah, basically, he was.
That's great.
I mean, there's a couple of ways of looking at it. He was doing a public service,
right?
But also, he was doing a bit of public shaming as well.
Yeah, someone once told me, and this is weirdly enough, this was in my first job when I was 16, 17. Someone once told me that when you see chalky white dog poop, it's because the dog has been naughty and eaten chalk, and that's why. And at like 16 or 17, I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. Sure. Because dogs always have a readily available pack of chalk
Yeah, for when they're feeling naughty.
They've always got access to just like sticks of chalk when people are just still using it on blackboards.
Do you think that's like the equivalent of dogs smoking? If you see a dog with a stick of chalk hanging out its mouth, all the other dogs are like, "Oh, he's a badass, he's a badass." But then some other dogs look at him and think, "I want to be like him."
Yeah,
It's like the James Dean of the dog world, except instead of leather pants and tight jeans, it's just chalky dog poos.
it's just a border terrier with like a stick of chalk hanging out its mouth,
Yeah.
hanging on a street corner, just brushing against the brick wall. Yeah, and what?
Yeah, I slipped my collar today. And what?
Yeah. Outside of working from home, how have you been doing with pandemic as a whole? I like to just shorten it to pandemic. It's much easier. I also feel like it makes us seem like we're all inside of a real life action movie as well.
Not to be confused with the board game Pandemic.
Or that, yeah, board game Pandemic, or the really terrible movie Birdemic, which is some of the finest CGI ever crafted. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
Oh, it's horrendous, but for all the right reasons. It's a film recommendation right there, Birdemic. I think they made a sequel as well.
Oh, brilliant. Birdemic 2.
It is the worst graphics I think I've ever seen, period, in anything, like throughout the decades. It's just so jarringly, obviously unreal. And it's brilliant.
I feel like I've seen some clips of the CGI of that film in some kind of top 10 worst CGIs.
Oh, yeah, probably at number 1, because it's dreadful.
Yeah, outside of work, the pandemic's been, again, I think for me personally, good.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot, a lot of people have gotten ill, a lot of people have died, a lot of people lost their jobs, their homes, and all the rest of it. And there's a lot of bad stuff that's come out of it. But from a personal point of view, it's been quite good for me just as a general stay-at-home introvert anyway, because it just means that rather than it feeling like, oh, I'm wasting my life because I'm not going here or there, or I need to go and be doing that, I kind of, reassure myself with the, I can't go there anyway, so might as well stay at home and do something instead, which has been good. And yeah, no, I don't want to say enjoyed it, because all these are kind of like really, I know like you should try and find the positive in situations like this, but it does feel quite arseholey at the same time to say, do you know what, I bloody love this pandemic.
No, not at all, because you latch onto something that is generally, I think, the way to go. If you've found positives from it, totally grab onto them. Obviously, as you've acknowledged, people are having a hard time with it. Everyone to various degrees, up and down the scale, and based on their situation, is dealing with it differently and having a harder time than others. But you don't, when you say that you are enjoying it, that's not taken away from that. That's just you focusing on the positives of it. And ultimately, for me, that's been the way to sort of stay afloat and survive, is just find things that are positive and just kind of harness myself onto them and just stick with that and kind of push them forward. So yeah, it's not a bad thing for you to say that. You know what I mean? It's not like you're discrediting anyone that's had a shit time. You're acknowledging it. It's just you personally seem to have kind of thrived in this environment, I would say.
Yeah, I think one of the really good things has been that before all this, we were, me and Rachel kind of getting up and going to work, leaving the house at 7, and I would get home about 6. Sometimes Rachel won't get home till 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then she might have a call at like 9 o'clock at night, something like that. Whereas now, I get up and I'm at work. I mean, the commute's been pretty good for the last 3-4 months, I must say, from the bedroom to here. That's been fairly traffic free. Because I'm kind of getting here, and because I'm at home, and like I said, I've not got the constant distraction of being in the office. By the time it gets to 5 o'clock, I'm not thinking, oh, I should probably do another hour because I didn't manage to get through this today, or I didn't manage to get through that today. So I'm kind of clearing stuff a lot quicker as well, which means that 5 o'clock comes, I'll log off, shut my laptop down, and like, oh, I'm already at home. So then I want to go and start something. I can go outside and start something, like mess around in the garden, go and mess around in the garage for an hour or 2 hours, and it's only 7 o'clock. They've still got the rest of the evening.
Yeah.
Like things like that have been the really, 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 really big positive from all this.
Yeah, for sure.
I think another big thing as well, and this is something I was afraid of myself personally going back on after this all kind of calmed down with it, was that I had a habit of, say, midweek getting to about maybe 6, 7 o'clock thinking, oh, I'm a bit bored, or we'll go to Trafford Centre or go to, some shopping centre or a retail park or something, just to wander around, just for something to do.
Yeah.
And then you kind of go and then end up eating out, and then you might end up buying some thing that you don't need or really didn't ever intend on buying, and it's just a waste of money. And then you kind of come home at 10, half 10, and you think, I wasn't bored for a few hours. And then you think back on it, you think, yeah, I was just bored somewhere else. I didn't really achieve anything. I didn't gain anything extra from going there. I didn't reduce my boredom levels by such an extent that I thought, oh my God, I'm having such an amazing time. I can't believe it's 10 o'clock already.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really afraid that once all the shops came back open again, I'd kind of just slowly slide back into that routine and I'm bored during the week, let's go there. But two things I think that have impacted that are, one, just the sheer terror of going outside in a group where there's a crowd of people is still at the forefront of my mind.
Sure, and it should be for everyone, let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it should still be the number one thought, definitely. And then secondly, I feel like I've kind of broken the cycle now of I'm bored, so I need to go to this place. Whereas now I'm like, I'm bored. Okay, well, what can I do at home first? Is there something I can make or do? Something I've got like a genuine output of this action, and here's something I can see at the end of it that's, not cost me 60, 70 quid.
Yeah.
Or anything like that, it's cost me 3 hours of my time, but I can sit and look at that for the next, however long, kind of thing. That's been a pretty good positive as well.
Well, that and just the knowing that you've and it seems that this has been the case with you talking to you like weeks and weeks throughout this whole thing, and it's kind of the case with me as well, and I identify with this sense of breaking old habits that particularly weren't necessarily that detrimental, but weren't exactly getting you places or weren't really fulfilling you in any way, and instead forming new habits which do feel a lot more fulfilling. Like you are making more of your time and you are feeling more accomplished, and you have something other than just, as you say, like 5 or 6 hours killed. Doing something that you really gained nothing from, essentially.
Yeah, it's that. I don't know, just thought, like I said, the thought of having, you finish this 3-4 hours of doing whatever, and you either got the choice of, okay, well, I can convince myself I wasn't really bored for those few hours, and I've bought myself something that won't really cheer me up, and then I'll probably start worrying about money in the next 10 minutes, and I'll get buyer's remorse. Or I can not do that and have something that I've got a genuine, it doesn't even have to be, I suppose, like a physical, tactile output. It could just be, I don't know, you spent like 3 hours reading or thinking or something, just.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just feels a lot more positive, having that time to do these other things, I suppose, like you say, breaking that, not necessarily bad habit, but a habit that really you didn't need. And
yeah, and just doesn't have any sort of advantages to it, really, or a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you feel like you're actually, because I feel with having the time and being in the situation I've been in, is that it has made, and for a long time I've always tried to make the most of what time I have, but this has become even more increasingly an awareness within me, is that, okay, this is a situation which, thankfully isn't going to last forever. But while we have it and while we are dealing with it and whilst we're in this situation, I do want to make the most of my time. And it's really helped self focus what I'm doing in terms of a day-to-day thing.
Yeah, I think, especially, sorry, I'm just going to have to open the window a second because I'm absolutely cooking. I think initially, again, for the first kind of maybe 3 or 4 weeks, that was definitely a big part of my thought process for doing not so much major projects, but bigger projects at home. And, I kept thinking to myself, and again, I probably said it to Rachel a few times, she said it to me, I said, well, we might as well do it now while we've got the time. And it's just because, realistically, Monday to Friday for the first few weeks of the lockdown, especially when everyone else at the office got furloughed and there's only a few of us left, there wasn't a lot to do. There was a lot of downtime, and it was kind of accepted across our office that there might be a case if you have like an hour spare during the day where there isn't anything to do. You shouldn't feel guilty about using that to go and do something for yourself, whether that's you might need to nip to the supermarket midday because it's quieter and you don't have to worry about going, or you could go and weed the garden or something like that. Yeah. So at that time, that was when we were trying to put the veg patch together. So we kind of used some of that time during the day to maybe go to the greenhouse and like sow some seeds or do some potting on and things like that. But yeah, I think definitely the very beginning of all this, I did kind of keep saying to myself, well, I might as well do it now while I've got the time. Oh, I might as well do that while I can't go anywhere. But I think now it's kind of just like a mantra that I don't have to say. I think it's the same for a lot of people as well, though. You are kind of you do kind of find yourself slipping into that. Well, I'll do it now while I've got the time because there's nothing else going on. So I might as well make use of this time. And, because again, it's a bad time and there's a lot of bad things that happen. But for a lot of people, this is time that in the kind of world that we live in, we'll never get the same way again.
And they didn't have beforehand because you're having to commute to a job and then commute back, and then you've got all these other things, that the outside world takes from you in terms of your allotted time that you're given. But because that's been eliminated, you've got more time at home, and I think that's the thing, and especially why it kind of sinks in early for a number of people is because you're forming a structure. Because you've had that structure taken away from you, you've had that commute taken away from you, you've had those responsibilities and jobs and chores and stuff that you would do in the outside world. And so you're kind of just left sort of floating. For me, this is me just speaking, to keep me sane, I've had to make a structure. When I first moved over here and I wasn't able to work, I had to do a similar thing because I just had nothing but time on my hands. And it was nice for like the first week or two. It's like, great, it's like a holiday. You just play video games, watch stuff on TV. But then after a while, it's like, yeah, okay, I feel like I need to be doing something because otherwise every day just blends together and I feel like I don't have a purpose.
Yeah, you feel like you have to you need that structure so you can almost at the end of every day say, well, this is what I've achieved. And even if it's something as, it might seem menial in the future, things like, okay, well, I got dressed, I went out to this place, I explored this area over here, I learned about this, on the internet or something. Those are all still things that you achieved. And, had you not taken the first step of getting dressed, you wouldn't have left the house, then you wouldn't have explored this area, which might not have piqued your interest in such and such a topic. So then you've learned about that. And I do think structure is definitely important, especially a time like this. I did at first, when I was the first week or so, I thought I was struggling with structure in that I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing at any point during the day, which sounds really bad, but I know how to do my job. It wasn't like cooking Sunday dinner at 3:00 in the morning on a Wednesday, thinking,
so wearing shoes on your hands, going, these gloves have shrunk.
Chasing after the milkman with the dustbin. But I was thinking, I need some kind of structure because I just don't know what's happening kind of day to day in the minute and what I'm supposed to be doing at 11 o'clock on Tuesday versus 11 o'clock on Thursday. As it turns out, I did make myself a schedule of every day. It was get up at this time, eat breakfast at this time. And what I learned from that was I hate schedules. And if you tell me I've got to do something at a certain time and it's not for work, I'm not going to do it. And even if I know I need to do it, I'm not doing it, just out of sheer stubbornness.
So do you operate more with like a sort of floating to-do list? Like you'll have things that you want to get done in the day, but you don't like allocate, that's got to be done at 11, that's got to be done at 4, at 5, I'm doing this. It's just like a list of things that you want to get done, and it's just like, well, we'll see how the day goes, and I'll tick them off as I go along.
Exactly, yeah. So I think my routine was something like, okay, I'll get up, and then I'll go for a walk outside the house. That was my 1 hour of Boris exercise time that I was allowed at the time. And then I'd come back, I'd have a shower, have breakfast, start work for 2 hours. Then it was break. And this went on. It was like 2 hour slots, 2 hour kind of stints of everything. And then like half an hour or 10-minute breaks for breaks and lunches and stuff like that. Day one, I got up late, couldn't be asked going for a walk, and I didn't want breakfast when it said it was time for breakfast. And I was like, well, this is going absolutely fantastic. But then I started getting really down on myself, thinking, I need to stick to the schedule, because without this schedule, my life's just going to fall apart, and I will end up with the shoes on the hands and things like that. After a couple of weeks, I kind of realised I didn't as much need that strict of a regimen, and a lot of it was purely down to the fact that work was just slowing down.
Yeah.
So there just wasn't as much to do during the day. And that's why I had these moments of like, maybe, 20, 30 minutes after finishing a piece of work, started thinking, well, now what? Like, what where do I go from here? But yeah, I do think the routine is important, definitely in times like this, but just don't give me a schedule.
Right.
I can't do it.
What I've done, and I tend to find works if I stick to this, and it's getting in that mindset. It's like a lot of things I want to do it, I have the intention to do it, and sometimes I will for a couple of days, and then sometimes it'll just fall to bits. It's a thing I found about called the Pomodoro technique. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
No.
Basically, it's like a way to work through tasks. And this is pretty good for people that struggle to either concentrate on something for a prolonged amount of time, or the complete opposite. If like me, you have a tendency to just kind of latch onto a task and then just sit with it and plow through it for hours, which I will do. That's like something I'm really bad at, and this helps when I do apply it. Is that you set out your tasks that you want to do for the day, and you start with one of them. And usually, I think the standard measurement is 25 minutes. You work on it without distractions, put your phone away, don't have any other tabs open if you're on a computer, etc., and just work solidly for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you take a 5-minute break. And then you can check your phone, you can dick about on Reddit, whatever you want to do for 5 minutes. Go get a drink, go have a pee, whatever you need to do for 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes are yours for whatever. And then when that 5 minutes is up, you come back, you do another 25 minutes, just solid, focused work on what you're doing, and then 5-minute break. And you can do this in multiples. I've broken it up because in a way to help me combat just doing long stretches and to feel like I'm getting more benefit from it. And it works differently for everybody. What I tend to do is blocks of 50 minutes and then a 10-minute break.
Right, okay.
So I'll work solidly for 50 minutes on something, just full concentration, nothing else, and then 10 minutes I'll just walk away from it. Just actually get up and move away and go outside, look outside, whatever for 10 minutes. And I find that helps because it kind of helps me get the tasks done, but I'm not just, as I say, sat there for like 3.5 hours, 4 hours, just working on something.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, as much as, for me personally, as much as it has helped having things to do, I can get so lost in things. A thing can be a time sink for me. Like editing shows, I can sit, because I have to listen to the whole thing. So if it's an hour, I have to listen to the whole hour, but it's obviously not that hour because I'm having to cut things. I'm having to sort of go back and structure, okay, this is where maybe we need to snip this off, etc. And so that can take a few hours. And there will be days, there'll be afternoons where I just sit and do the whole thing in one sitting. And it's just fatiguing. But I think using the Pomodoro technique has helped me just kind of like feel like I'm getting stuff done, but also feel like I'm taking breaks and I'm not just falling down a rabbit hole of that and that alone.
Yeah, I can imagine if you're doing something creative as well, that it's really easy to get a kind of creativity or imagination burnout. And that by using that, you're almost preventing it, or at least trying to reduce the chance of it happening, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see. Yeah, I could see that would be quite a good technique, actually.
The only problem, if you are working on something creative, is if at the end of the 50 minutes you're just like, but hang on a minute, because this is going really well. I feel like I've established a groove here. And it's like, no, you got to leave it. And you're like, oh God, I'm going to forget what I'm thinking. So then that's when Post-it notes come in handy, and I'm just scrolling shorthand notes, just like, it technically doesn't count.
I'm not actually sat at my desk, it's fine.
I'm stood up, I'm out the chair. Yeah, the 10 minutes is spent just scrolling down ideas on Post-it notes and just putting them all over the screen in an order that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, what does that even say? I can't even read my own handwriting.
So your next 50 minutes stint is spent reorganising your Post-it notes.
So yeah, that's how I spend my afternoons most days. But no, that's pretty cool. I think, as I say, when I actually stick with it and I do practice it, I think it helps. So yeah, if anyone's listening and you're just kind of struggling to concentrate on stuff, because there's been days where I have, like I say, I've lost myself in stuff, but there have been days where I just haven't even known where to start. There have been days where I've just stared at the rug in the library. In the library, fuck me, it makes it sound like I'm living in an English manor. In the study. That's no better, is it, really?
Not even better, is it, now?
No, in the little office. We'll go with that. there's been days after strolling the many acres of my mansion that I've stopped and just stared deeply into the ballroom carpet and contemplated where do I even start my day?
Where doth one start one's day?
Oh, for sake, this pandemic stuff affects me awful.
Yeah, it's not so. I always feel like you're not experiencing the coronavirus, but maybe going through the Black Plague or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just wandering the estate with my plague mask on.
Yeah,
the big pointy beak.
Yeah, or some person behind you like throws rosemary on the floor or tries to shove a leech up your ass or whatever they did. I don't know. Drive a nail into your head.
Or Trepanation, or whatever it was called, where they used to drill a hole in your skull.
Yeah. Well, you got a headache. Ooh, got to do some bloodletting. And I'll solve it. What do you know? I'd be really interested to understand from that time period, and that logic is: someone comes to you saying, "I've got a headache," and you drill a hole in the noggin, and they die.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So,
well, headache's gone, so that's a start.
Well, yeah. So, if you're the kind of doctor, I suppose, that is thinking a hole in the head is a good idea, you could attribute the death to the headache and think, well, it was so severe that they died of headache. Okay, right, that's fine.
Has that ever been on anyone's death certificate? Died of headache.
I don't know, it could have been. Say, like, you get, 10 weeks down the line and you've got another 9 patients under your belt, and they've all had headaches, and you've gone for the Black and Decker again, or the Bosch, or whatever they used back then, I don't know. Hang on.
So has this doctor, this hypothetical doctor, used the same method each time on all 9 of these patients that he's got?
Yeah, right. That's what I'm thinking. Okay. They've used the hole in the head, and they've just absolutely dropped dead straight away. Because obviously,
all of them, he's got a 9 for 9 patient murder rate.
He's 10 for 10 at this point, because he did the first one and he thought that was died of headache. He's done another 9, so at this point he's got 100% 10 out of 10 record of died of headache. At that point, I know again, these doctors probably weren't up to, the modern standards of medicine, shall we say, because they're drilling holes in people's heads. But at that point, would you not stop and think, is it the drill?
What a quaint observation. Margaret, listen, I've done 10, right? 10 of them have come with headaches. And I thought, I've got this, right? Headache, use the drill, obviously, right? Yeah, of course. But get this, Margaret. All 10 of them have died. And I'm beginning to think, is it the drill?
Again, this is from a period where people rubbed arsenic on the skin and things like that, because that pale look was all the rage. I mean, if the pale look was what they wanted, get a headache, go to the doctor. You're going to be pale as anything in about a day.
Exactly.
Because he'll have drained you.
Colour will have just stripped from you in hours.
Yeah.
I guess it would be a case of there's no other alternatives, really, other than, hitting them on the head with something, if that was maybe an instance. And in that case, how easy is it to get a PhD?
How would you get a PhD? You mentioned that there's a practical examination. Bill here has got a headache. You've got a 2x4. Show me what you do.
It's just a sheet of paper with really crude sketches of different tools that you would use. It's like multiple choice.
It looks like an excerpt from Jigsaw's diary.
A is a hacksaw. B is a ball-peen hammer. C is the drill. And D is a rubber mallet, to be considerate. So you have to pick A, B, C, or D.
That's for a paediatrician.
I'm glad we've advanced in terms of medicine.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not the case anymore.
Do you know what? I don't know. I can't remember. I'll be honest, I can't actually remember how we got onto the headache and the drill topic, but it's going a little bit more off-piste again. I Googled not so long ago what an iron lung was, because I didn't really understand the concept of it, and I knew it was, for want of a better phrase, fucking massive.
It's the thing that, I don't know, actually, and you'll be able to tell me here, but all I know is whenever I've seen on, TV shows or movies, when someone said, oh, he's in an iron lung, is somebody in a giant, metal box.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. It's like a big metal coffin that you poke your head out of the end.
like a magician's trick box when they would saw like
Yeah, that's what it's. Yeah, except the magic is medicine. I think it's something to do with, again, I say I read it, obviously didn't read it properly. Just having a quick scan now. I'm sure it equalizes pressure around, or does something with the pressure around your body.
Right.
And then it causes your abdomen to contract and expand, so it kind of almost makes your body breathe. From what I understand, I think once you're in one,
That's it.
you're in it, like for life. That's it. And I think they were mainly used when people had polio. And I don't think, obviously, because polio is not a thing anymore.
Right.
I don't think they're used as much. I think they've come back a little bit, made a comeback because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
They're a bit more in style. It's 2020's hottest medical apparatus, the Iron Lung.
Yeah, they're doing a comeback tour, I believe, worldwide. Yeah, so I think I googled what that was, and that was I remember just thinking that is a terrifying piece of medical equipment right there. Imagine that you get so ill that you just get put in this thing that
it's got to be awful, especially if that's it. If that's it for till the end, you're in there,
just up and down, up and down. Oh, anyway, doctors and drills. Mental.
Indeed, absolutely. Radio rental. Which, by the way, I'm trying to use that a little bit more now. But it doesn't seem to have taken off over here because no one's got any frame of reference for radio rental.
They don't know what Tandy is.
No.
Do you remember when we were younger, there used to be an electronics retailer, but it was a door-to-door, like an Avon-style retailer called Candy. They used to sponsor, I think they used to sponsor Liverpool. Yeah.
Yeah, in the 80s, yeah.
So I remember...
Is that what that was?
Yeah, it was
I never knew.
I'm sure, I think.
It's up there with your knowledge of iron lungs, right?
Yeah, I'm as sure as the doctors are about the drills and sure as I am with the iron lungs, that Candy was some kind of like Avon style electrical retailer. Except obviously it wasn't like someone having a fridge party or something like that, like Tupperware. Right. Like, Margaret, don't do the dishes tonight. We're having a candy party. He's bringing a dishwasher around. Well, I remember when I was a child, there was a knock at the door, and I was like, "Who is it? Who is it? Who is it?" And I think my mum said something like, "Oh, nothing. Don't worry. It's only the Candyman." Now, at the time, I'd never seen the film Candyman, right? So my frame of reference at that point was, "Holy shit, they're doing door-to-door sweets now." And I was pumped. I was like, "Can we get something? Can we get something? Can we get something? Can we get something?" And then she explained what candy was, and I was just crushed.
Yeah, I imagine, like, you hear as a child, the candy, I mean, as an adult, it sounds terrifying and super menacing, the Candyman's at the door.
Yeah.
As a kid, you don't have that.
Candyman.
It's just giving out sweets. It's all right. Help yourself. But yeah, you can imagine.
Where do these come from?
You can imagine, as a kid, you think, "Oh, great, sweets," and it's just no, he's selling like kettles.
That was on a level with the ice cream man coming round and not having any money, and the video van, not coming around for 1 week.
You had a video van?
Oh yeah.
What, kind of like a pop man who would come around with like a mobile blockbusters, but in like a
a mobile blockbusters. Yeah, they'd come round. You go in, have a
whoa. You mean you'd go in? What?
And they'd have films on shelves. You'd rent a film off them, and the next week they'd come back and you'd go and take it back.
How big's his van? If he's housing shelves?
It was the equivalent of. Do you remember the mobile libraries that used to come to school?
Yeah.
It was that kind of size. It wasn't huge, but I mean, back in like the mid-90s, from what I remember, there weren't a lot of films anyway.
I just have images of a guy who doesn't particularly look very reputable just driving about in like a rusty old white transit van with like plastic boxes full of cassettes, like video cassettes. They don't even have covers. They've just got the titles scrawled on in like a pen. Not even like a Sharpie, just like a big biro. It's just scribbled on like Candyman.
It's like the guy from the pub who sold videos has gone mobile. He's like an entrepreneur right now. I'll come to your house, don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, Derek's taking his business on the road now. every Friday, 6:00, end of the street, £1 a video.
Make sure you snap that tab off, though, because you don't want to record over it.
That's amazing. I wish I had that. I wish I had a video man.
Yeah, you used to be able to rent computer games off them as well, like Mega Drive games and stuff as well.
Yeah. We used to have a shop where you could do that. It was just stationary. It was called London Road Stores. And that is where I used to, as a kid, rather than just buy games, I would tend to rent them. And I even did it when I was a teenager as well, at a place called Global Video, which is sadly...
Global Video,
Oh, Global Video,
Was that just a northern brand as well? Because I don't really know many people that know Global Video.
Whoa. You mean there was more than one?
Yeah, there was one in Chorley.
Oh, because I always just thought it was like local to the point that it was one guy who'd set up shop in Carlisle.
How can I make this sound like a massive brand? You know, really global. I've got it. Global Video.
This is literally blowing my mind because all the years I've been alive, all the years I spent just browsing through the shelves and just renting the most random things just based on either the description of the cover without ever seeing a trailer or knowing anything. Which, by the way, anybody that's under a certain age listening to this, you missed out on this. You think you've got it all now with your Netflix and your instant VOD streaming. Bollocks. The best thing was going into a video store, looking at something, having no idea what it was, going, that cover looks scary as hell. I'll have that.
Yeah.
And taking it home, finding it was pretty crap. And then, despite your disappointment, you still go back and you do the same thing next week.
Do you not think, because you had that commitment of, again, like you didn't have to keep it for a week. You could have gone back and taken it back the next day and got another film. But you spent your £3.50. It was a premium title. It wasn't the £1 for 5 days. This was £3.50 for 5 days. This was like a new release. Even if you hated that film, you still enjoyed it because you'd paid £3.50 and it was like, this is the only film I've got now for the next week. I've got to watch it. Exactly.
And there would be instances where I get films that I really didn't care for at all, but I would watch it a second time because you've got it for the week and you've just got, well, I'm basically getting twice my money's worth.
Yeah, I'm making money.
I'm basically getting a film for $1.75. So I'm fooling them. Joke's on you, Global Video. But that's blowing my mind, the fact that there was more than one. I just always presumed until now that it was just one local business guy who set up a shop with great ambition to call it Global Video in the hopes that it would take off one day. But yeah, I didn't know there was more than one.
Yeah, apparently they were concentrated in Scotland and the north of England, so they were just in the north. It started in Glasgow.
Hang on, have you just Googled this?
Oh yeah, I needed to know this. Couldn't let this go.
All right.
And ironically changed its name before administration to Global DVD. That's what killed it.
Exactly.
That's what killed it.
It's a good job it stopped there because it probably would have changed its name to Global HD DVD.
Yeah, just for like a week and a half, and then it went to Blu-ray. Global streaming, and then it shut.
We've got to stop this, lads. We've got to just decide on a name. Let's just stick with Global Film. Tells people exactly what it is without sticking and dedicating ourselves to a particular format.
Global media consumption.
Yeah, Global Laserdisc.
Oh my God, can you imagine that? I'm just going to carry this Laserdisc home. Oh Christ, it's the 3-disc special edition. Imagine Lord of the Rings, like in the 10-disc edition on Laserdisc.
Laserdisc.
Can you imagine that? You'd have to have a separate house for it, wouldn't you?
The video guy would only be able to stock that and that alone. He'd only be able to do one rental a week.
What's in the trailer? Oh, it's just Lord of the Rings on bloody Laserdisc.
I'm renting it for a premium price, though. £5.
2 weeks.
£5, 2 weeks. Bargain. Yeah, that's blowing my mind.
Yeah, Global Video man. All the mod cons.
Yeah, we never got a video man. I wish we did. The closest we got was what we called the Pop Man.
Oh yeah, the Pop Man.
And it used to sell. I've heard it being referred to as something else. It's not the Tardy Man. It's something with a T. T Man. I can't think now. I'm not going to even try and rack my brain. But yeah, for international listeners who never had the, I say international, like I'm expecting people in Peru to listen to this. For those of you who were deprived.
Yeah, because at this point, after mentioning Global Video, everyone was totally engaged and up to speed. Right. But we've lost them at Pop Man.
There are people who live in Britain who haven't a clue what we're talking about. How am I expecting the people in Peru to be like, oh yeah, global video, sure, pop man, oh I remember them days. Anyone on the other side of the north-south divide's like, what on earth is happening here? But the pop man was great. He used to come around with different soft drinks, always in glass bottles.
Yeah,
and then you would you'd hand them back.
Zero
Obviously,
waste.
you'd wash them out. Yeah, ahead of his time.
It was like a mobile soda stream, wasn't he?
Kind of, yeah, but with a little bit more aggravation.
Yeah. Have you got any sarsaparilla? Yes. Can I have one then?
This is really hostile.
Yeah. I mean, do you know what? The pot man, when you think back, was dirt cheap as well, because it was like 1.5 litre bottles of something, and it was like £1. And then if you got 2, it'd be like, well, that's 50p then each. And you're like, are you making money, mate? What are your pricing structures?
Add that to your rental from Global Video. What a cheap weekend.
Exactly. The only thing you didn't get from Global, though, was the popcorn, because that's where they made the money, on the concession.
But that's where they always make the money. Cinemas do. Cinemas make no money from tickets. That's what I was told anyway when I used to work in a cinema. I was always told to upsell concessions.
Yeah.
Always get people to buy the biggest of whatever they wanted, because that's where they make the money. Ticket, it barely covered the cost of rentals.
Yeah, because you rent the hard drive, don't you?
Well, you do now. You didn't when I was there.
Back in the
really
day.
Showing my age. Yeah, before they went digital. When it was actually projected. I used to work with, and this is the only person I've ever met that suffered from narcolepsy, was a guy called Johnny, who was an apprentice projectionist back in the days before the hard drives. And he used to thread it through and reel it on and all that good stuff. He was an apprentice projectionist, and he would sit every shift he would do with either one of the 2 main projectionists that worked there, and he'd watch and he'd learn and stuff, and as an apprentice does. But one day, the guy that was supposed to be doing it, one of the head projectionists, called in sick, and Johnny was there by himself. But he'd known enough at the time to do it, at least for the manager to be like, it's all right, we feel like Johnny's done enough hours, what have you. But Johnny never told anyone that he had narcolepsy at the time. When he applied for the job, he never wrote it down. And he's left on his own to do, it was a screening for, it wasn't Master and Commander, because that's the film I accidentally interrupted by switching the lights on, chasing kids that were screen hopping. It wasn't that, but it was something like that. It was like a historical thing. It might have been Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. Anyway, Johnny's doing the projection. Everything's going fine until one of the real changes comes on. And at this point, he's fallen asleep. And so it just skips and skips and skips and skips, and you hear just on like the walkie-talkie, what's going on in screen 4? It's Johnny. And I don't think he came back shortly after that. I think like they had him take some time off, and then I just don't think he ever came back. But that was great.
So there you go, that is part 1 of me talking to Shaune. I did tell you it was going to be a mixed bag, right? A whole spectrum of stuff in there. Some really interesting stuff, some really random side tangents, which came from absolutely, well, nowhere, to be honest. But yeah, an absolute joy, as is going to be the case with next week's episode. And to give you a little sample platter for what you can expect in part 2, we're talking about new hobbies that Shaune has found during quarantine, including woodworking, teaching himself woodworking from scratch, which is beyond impressive. Just gonna say it, beyond impressive, partly because I am just absolutely useless at anything practical. So I'm kind of in awe of anyone that can teach themselves any sort of physical skill. Next week, I am also going to be introducing the random topic list. It's something I've been putting together for a little while now, and again, Shaune is going to be the guinea pig with that. He's going to pick a couple of random topics, and we're going to just go with that and see what he has to say about those. Of course, I'm not going to tell you what those are, because you've got to tune in next week to find out what those random topics are. Of course, the best and easiest way, let's be honest, the easiest way to get next week's episode and every episode that follows it is to subscribe via whatever podcast platform you use to get your podcasts. Also, it helps us tremendously when you subscribe. It's great to have you on board, and it helps us with the old internet magic and alchemy and algorithms and stuff like that. As does, by the way, if you are wanting to help out the show, ratings and reviews. Yeah, if you have enjoyed the show so far and you want to help us out, one of the best ways you can do so is giving us a rating and a review if your podcast platform allows you to do so. Most of them do, I think, so really there's no excuse, is there? Other ways that you can help out the show if you're not wanting to leave a rating and a review, then you can simply just tell people about the show. Share the links on your social medias, on your Twitters, on your Instagrams, on your Facebooks, on your TikToks. Why not? I would like to see some people do some TikTok videos promoting the show. That is like an end goal. I think it's just some creative free marketing from people on TikTok. That is the end goal. It's never going to happen, but you can always dream, right? Can always dream. If you're not quite willing to do that just yet, if you're not quite ready for that just yet, there are other ways, one of which is recently I set up a coffee page. That's ko-fi. If you go to ko-fi.com, you'll see what I mean. Or even better, if you go to the official Dimed Out website, which is dimed-out.com, where you can get all the podcasts, all the show notes for everything you could ever want for the show is on there, including a link to our coffee page, where you can, if you want, emphasis on the if you want, this is not mandatory, it's certainly not expected, but if you want to throw a few pennies our way for hosting costs, to get better equipment, or to just say, hey, I like this about the monetary value of, say, a packet of flaming hot Monster Munch, or a cup of tomato soup, or a Kit Kat Chunky out of a hospital vending machine, or maybe all three. You maybe like it as much as all three combined fiscally, which would be about, I don't know, £2.50, which is about just over $4. I think, I don't know. I'm not here to work out your currency conversions. Anyway, if you enjoy the show and you want to contribute something, and again, it's if you want. There is no expectation, there is zero demand, but you can do so. And as I said, the best way to do that and to find everything related to the show is over at dimed-out.com. That's the website, that's where everything is, and it's where everything you could ever possibly dream of doesn't exist. And on that note, I'm going to wrap this episode up. This has been episode 11, the first of 2 parts. Next week, again, we're going to be back with Shaune, as I said, talking about woodwork. We're going to be talking about random topics. I almost told you what they were, but I'm not going to, because you have to tune in to find out. But I promise you, they are definitely worth it. So yeah, thank you for listening as always. Be sure to check out next week, subscribe, get in touch, say hey, throw in your ideas for future episodes. Let me know what you're liking, what you're not liking, but if you're going to do that, be nice about it, right? Because, I have a very delicate sensibility. Until next time, look after yourselves, look after each other, and keep it dimed out.